Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the segment of Khoj Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our reading, Rag Sorat, composition of Bhagat Namdev. The first verse, Paar Padosan Puchile Nama Ka Pehchan Chawai Ho To Peh Dugni Majuri Devon Moko Bedi Deh Batai Ho. Now this is a very interesting shabad in that the surface meaning seems very obvious. Paar Padosan Puchile Nama. The neighbor woman asks of Namadev. Ka pehchan chawai ho, O Namdev, where did you have this beautiful altar or structure built? To peh dugni majuri deho, I will pay you double the wages. If only you will tell me who the carpenter is. Moko bedi deho bataye ho. So on the face of it, it seems like a neighborhood conversation. But actually, there are dangers in reading shabads in Gurbani too literally, and this is a classic example. Because if you look closely, it is not the woman across in the neighborhood, the neighbor woman. The word here is Paar Padosan, Paar, herder, which means split. That woman who causes a split. So you see, we have to reread this. And I would recommend the following reading. Paar Padosan Puchile Nama. The ego woman, the ego is being symbolized here as feminine, across the curtained veil, because the ego separates. So the ego is being instructed to direct its question to Nama. Now Nama here doesn't refer to Namdev, but it is a symbol for awakened consciousness, the inner self. Puchile Nama. And the question to be asked is, Ka pehchan chawai ho? How do I become graceful and fearless? Chan chawai ho. We will examine Chan chawai in a moment. And the answer that is given is, To peh dugni majuri deho, moko bedi deho batai ho. So, the answer is become a servant to the self and toil with doubled surrender. Not only that, but plead to be bound, fashioned, and stitched to that very self. Moko bedi deho batai lo. Now you see, I read the generally accepted translation first, in which the terms Paar, Padosan, Bai, Bedi have been read literally. But these are not references to an external neighborhood or a carpentry scene, but these are symbolic markers in an inner spiritual neighborhood. So you see, the neighbor woman across the partition is the inner divider. And in Gurmat, the ego is the one, Haume, is the one that always is described as creating division between itself and the divine, between itself and the world, between itself and realization. And it is the ego that is the neighbor inside, because it is always there. It shares a wall with you. It is always adjacent, but always split off from spiritual unity. And this brings me to the term Bedi. Now, this term has multiple connotations. It just doesn't mean a shade or a canopy or an altar. It has a verbal meaning and a noun meaning. As a noun, it means a tailor, the one who stitches. And as a verb, it is the act of binding, to put together. It also means a shade. It also means a canopy. So we have to look to the context of the sabad. What is Namdev pointing to? He's pointing to Chan Chavai Ho, which has been translated as a beautiful structure. But the structure is inside. Standard translations often overlook the subtle regional differences that are borrowed across languages, in this case Marathi, which was Namdev's mother language. You see, in Punjabi, cha can mean shade, it can mean canopy. And in poetic speech, cha is used for beauty, for auspiciousness. In Marathi, it is used in that spiritual sense. Now we come to the word chave. In standard dictionaries, it is seen as a verb form meaning to cause shade, cha, to spread shelter. But if you examine Marathi, which was Namdev's mother tongue, chave comes from chava, which means a lion's progeny, son of a lion, and is associated with the quality of valor and radiance. In fact, the name Chavan, which is very popular, means just that, the progeny of a lion. So we need to look at the metaphorical meaning of this verse. Here, the ego, which is full of questioning, is constantly questioning, is being redirected to its inner self. Go ask the inner self. Don't ask the world, because the answers are within. And what you want to build is this altar of awareness, which is adorned with beautiful qualities. Chan Chavai. So we need to shift the way we've conventionally looked at this Shabad of Namdev. In the same spirit, the Rahao Ribai Bedi Deen na jai, Dekh Bedi Reho Samai, Hamare Bedi Pran Adhara. Now the term Bedi has been used 3 times in 3 lines, and each time differently. Standard translations would say that this is Nama's response to an elderly female. Oh, bhai, this carpenter cannot be given to anyone. Behold the carpenter, it is everywhere. And this carpenter is the support of my breath. It leaves one somewhat dissatisfied. The recommended reading would be, O woman self. Here, the ego is somewhat softened. What is being said is, Ribai Bedi Den na jai. This sacred binding with the self, with your mool, cannot be given. It is not transferable. Behold and witness. Look. In other words, cultivate the right perception, and you will see that this divine tailor, Bedi, stitcher, is woven into the very texture of our being. Bedi Reho Samai. And this stitcher, Hamare Bedi, is the very support of our life. So it uses Bedi as the process of binding as well as the divine agent, the binder, if you will. In the second verse after the Rahao, how does this transaction, because if we look at it externally, it is a transaction. I need to hire a tailor to stitch me a cloth, but there the stitching is inside. Bedi preet majuri mange, jao ko chan chabai ho. If you wish, now we're looking at it metaphorically, internally. This binder demands the wages of love. That is to say, if you are interested, jao ko chan chabai ho, if you, should you want to build such a beautiful shelter within, then that tailor who is everywhere within, woven in you, demands the wages of love. Right? So, this is the price of adorning oneself with the beauty of blossoming virtues. Joko chan chavai ho. But the tailor requires a heart free from entanglements of the world. Log kutamba sabhu te tore. Only then will this tailor that is embedded in you, only then will it appear. Tau apan bedi ave ho. So love is the currency, detachment is the condition, and virtue is the adornment, the delivery. This describes that interior space, the interior, the inner altar, if you will. The point is, if your heart, your mind is packed with worldly identifications, which it is, loga gutam, the tailor essentially has no place to come and sit and work, which is typical of tailors coming home. They need space. But when those identifications are loosened, the tailor is there, will arrive unbidden. Aso bedi baran na sakon, sab antar sab thai ho. Gunge maha amrit ras chakhya, puche ghan na jai ho. So such is the binder. He's describing this divine agent, the binder. I'm unable to describe. Baran na sakon. It dwells within and in all places. Sab antara, sab thai ho. And if I were asked, I have no words to explain. Right? Puche kahan na jai ho. So the experience is like a mute person having tasted nectar, unable to speak, yet fulfilled. Gunge maha amrit ras chakhya, puche kahan na jai ho. So this for you is a classic example of bhakti literature from which Namdev emerges. Spiritual experience precedes language. The reshaping of consciousness, which is the tailor's work, the restitching, if you will, is felt but cannot be told. And now, in conclusion, Bedi ke gun sun re bai. Hear, O woman, hear, feminine, ego. Listen to me. Listen to the qualities of this tailor. Jalad band dhru thapyo ho. This is the same one who dammed the ocean and fixed Dhru as the North Star. Dhru is a symbol of stability. Name ke Swami, this tailor is Nama's master. Here Namdev says, it is my master. Si bahori lank babikhan apyo ho. Si bahori. Si here refers to Sita. Namdev is saying this is the same tailor who dammed the ocean, Jalad Bandha, fixed Dhru as the North Star, and brought Sita back from Lanka. Si Bahori Lank. that mythological land and restored Vibhishan back to the throne. Lanka Bibhikan Apayoho. Vibhishan is known for his just rule. Now, if we were to read this literally, then we would get stuck in a mythological detour. It would appear to have no relationship. But if we read this as metaphor, then this becomes the doctrinal seal. The same master who restores the cosmic order also reshapes the inner being. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.